Hello, welcome to the third part of this tutorial. In here, we are going to check the code of our application and also try to check the functionality so we see everything works. Let's take a look at the structure of the application. So we have a Expo folder. Expo folder is the folder related to Expo. Expo is the framework that we work with React Native to create the application. You can read more about it if you want. Husky, as I told you before, is the package that we use to sanitize our commits. VS Code will hold Visual Studio Code configuration. Amplify is a folder that AWS Amplify create for us. It has CLI configuration and other configuration that our application needs. Every time you use amplify pull command, it will be updated. Then we have asset folder. Asset folder is the folder that by default React Native saves the pictures in it. So we have some pictures here from Expo that we don't use actually. Then we have node modules. Every time you run npm install, all the packages will be installed in this folder. So this is something that we don't actually touch. It should be here for the application to run. Then we arrive to SRC folder. SRC folder has some kind of a structure that I created. It has components. As you see here, we have three main components here. We have error component. Error component is the component that we use to show errors everywhere in our application. So I import React, I import button, dialog, portal, and text from React Native Paper. React Native Paper is the UI library that we use throughout our application. So it has beautiful components already designed for us to use. Then we have use value to store. It's a hook that we use to connect to our store in our store manager package that it called Zustand. I will give you a very detailed how state management work in React Native. But for now, you just know that we use this because we need to access our global state. And we use a style sheet from React Native. A style sheet is the package that we use for styling or components. So as you may see here, we have a functional component called error component, and we take these variables and function from use value to store. We create a function hide dialog, and then here we have just a structure that creates an error message, and when user dismiss it, we call the hide dialog, and the hide dialog will call a function called set error message to false, and it will update the global state, so we will not show any error message in the app. It means like it's dismissed. Also, OK button has the same function because we want to dismiss the error whenever user click on OK. Next component that we have is an image. It's a SVG image. As you may know, we have two kinds of images. We have vector image and we have bitmap image. And the difference between these two are that bitmap image, if you scale them, the quality will reduce. But if you scale a vector image, because it's all lines like calculation, not pixels, so the quality will not reduce. So here we use SVG from a package called React Native SVG that helps us show SVG image in React Native. And as you may understand by now, SVG is a vector image. Then we have a spinner component. In this component, we create a portal and dialog, and it has some styling here for the dialog. So this one also use show spinner value from the global state. So we show it anywhere in our app that we want. Okay, now we finish with the components and we go to the containers folder. Okay, now we go to containers. Inside the containers, we have an auth flow and main flow. Auth flow is the container that we use for authentication flow. Let's go to it and see the code. As you see here we import dimension, touchable without feedback keyboard from React Native. We use them because we need to know how big is the user's screen. Like for example, if you have a big screen, we can show you the logo of the application also, plus the text box and buttons that you need for login or sign up. But if the device is very small, we prefer not to show the logo, but show the components that user need to log in or log out. So we have this function that has a show logo variable. Show logo is screen height bigger than 700. So if the screen height is bigger than 700, then we show the logo. And if not, we return an empty view. And as you see here, empty view is only a view that has a margin bottom of 40 pixels. So it's just like a rectangle in the screen with 40 pixel height. And then we have the part that we return a touchable without feedback. And what this one does, this one dismisses the keyboard. If you realize sometimes in the mobile apps, the keyboard is showing and you click outside keyboard and you want it to be dismissed. That's how we get this kind of gesture in React Native. So then we have an error component, a spinner component that we talk about them here. And we control these two components by global state. So we can ask them to show or not to show anytime we want. And we have should show logo, as you may see. And then we have children. As you may know, the children can be any React element that we can pass to this component. Then we have the styling for this page in here. In the main flow, we have only a simple logic for dismissing the keyboard. Then we go to the hooks folder, custom hooks that we create and we reuse them all over our project. This one is the navigation hook. What we have here is a useNav function that returns a use navigation with the proper type. In page, we have three flows. We have auth flow, main flow, and a splash flow. Let's go to the auth flow. We have login. This is the part that we write our logic for the login. First, we create a React component, a user state hook to create some variables. Then we use the function from the navigation that I explained earlier. Then we have set auth, set spinner from use wallet store. These are for handling authentication and showing the spinner to the user. Then we have this function that runs when we click on sign in. And this one called the handle sign in function that we create in our services. We go to it. Then we have set auth. Set auth is a function that sets authentication state in our global state. So at the end, we have a cache for handling any error. And also we have another function that we run when we click on sign up. It goes to the email page. Email page is the page that we get the sign up information from user. Then in this part, we have auth flow container. This is a container that we create. And then we have two text input for username and password and the button that we press for sign in and another button for sign up. And at the end, we export this component. Then we have a register page. In register page, we have two pages. Actually, we have code input. Let's go to it. We have a code, set code variable, an email that we get from the global state. We have a function that checks the code and makes sure that code is valid, like it's how many number of characters, or does it contain any letters or something. After that we try to set the spinner and try to ask Amplify API to check with the confirmation code if it's right. If it's right, it means a user is already signed up and it's verified. So we navigate user to the login page to login. For check code, we use a Zod schema. I will explain Zod in details. Now here we have again Outflow container, and we have some components that create our UI, and we have handle verify button, and at the end we have a style. For the email input, we have actually the same structure. We have some variables here, some functions that we get from global state, and we have some function that like says if password equals to confirm password, then do something. If not, just throw an error. So we set the spinner to true and then try to sign the user up. After that, we get two variables from this API, user ID and is sign up complete. So we put it inside our global state. And then we navigate to the code page. Because after sign up, we always need to verify the user, and verification, as I explained in other video, it happens with the code. So it will go to the code page. At the end, we have the UI for this page, and we have the styling. We have the main flow that currently doesn't have a lot of logic. It just have the logic that handles sign out and go back to the login page. Our next flow is a splash flow. It's the flow that loads at the start and checks if the app is logged in or not, because if you pay attention in mobile apps, you normally log in only once. You log in once, and next time that you open the app, it will check did you log in before, and it logs you in. So this is the place that we write that logic. And for that, if you realize in most of the mobile apps, there is a spinner or something that is loading, and then you go to right page, like you go to the authentication page, or you go to the page that you just closed the app and you were already logged in. Okay, let's check the splash flow. In here, we create the navigators of our app. So what is a navigator? Navigator is a component that helps us navigate through different pages of our app. So each of these pages that we create here, actually we import them here and we add it to the navigator. One navigator is for the login flow, and the second navigator is for the main flow, the flow that user already logged in. And we return an activity indicator that shows, hey, we are checking your login status. Here we have a function called checkout, and this function calls a method that checks with Amplify API is the user logged in or not. If the user logged in, then we show the user the main flow. But if the user is not logged in, it means we receive an error. So we show the user login page and we ask user to log in. And let's go to services. Inside services, we have two services. We have authentication. These are the functions that we create to call functions from AWS Amplify. And in some cases also we update the store. So for example, I explain one of them. We have a function current authenticated user. So what we do in this function, we get the current user response, and this function get current user is a function from AWS Amplify. We call it inside our function and we return exactly what we need. And this parse function is from Zod that I will explain later. At the end of this function, we just return true. So it means if any error happens, this function will throw an error and we need to handle the error. But if it returns true, it means authentication went fine. In handle sign-in function, we call the sign-in method from AWS Amplify with these parameters. And we return next step and is signed in. That can be true or false. The other functions, you just need to read the body. It's self-explanatory. And at the end, we export all the functions that we create here. For error handling in React Native apps, we have a lot of ways, but the best way that I used in production is to use Sentry. Sentry is a cloud solution for crash reporting in React Native apps. So you log into the Sentry website and you create an account and you download your own configuration and put it here. And then you can receive the crash reports of your app in your dashboard. Then we have a store that consists of some slices. So I explained this in another video related to ZooStand. Authentication tiers have the types that we need for authentication. These are Zod objects. I explained Zod in another video. And we have navigation types. These are login param list, main param list, and some TypeScript types that we use for navigation. After that, we have these two files that are credentials, and we have our index that returns a splash screen component that contains all the navigation flow. Here we have a sentry.wrap. It's the Sentry syntax to use with React Native app. Then after this, we have just some configuration files until here. FTSX is our root file, and we are wrapping it inside Paper Provider. Paper Provider is the component that we need to wrap our app inside if we want to use React Native Paper. And now let us see which packages we use. There are some packages that I want to explain, like ZooStand. It's a state management. In the dev dependencies, we have ESLint, Husky. Most of these packages I already explained in the backend repo tutorial. So we use them normally for linting or commit messages or linting the code and that kind of stuff. So here we went through the repository and I explained most of the logic there. If you need something that I missed or you didn't understand, you can always tell me in the comments. Thank you for paying attention and see you in the next tutorial.